Welcome to my series of creative critical reflection. And in this video, I will be answering the question number one, which is how does my product use or challenge conventions and how does it represent social groups or issues? Now, taking into consideration the first part of the question as to how does my product use or challenge conventions, I believe that understanding the fact that conventions are very important when it comes to the film industry, because conventions are used to create stereotypes amongst the audiences, right? Some general examples of conventions are character archetypes, visual style, genre, settings, and props, amongst others. I've used four of these in my film project. How so? Firstly, character archetypes. Understanding the fact that how the character used in a horror film is supposed to be someone who's spooky, scary, reserved, and someone who's spiritually inclined towards reciting verses, etc. So I took all that and I made sure that my film project incorporated stuff like that. How so? Firstly, the magician, right? I made sure that the magician within my film project was reserved, was reciting verses, and was moving within a circular motion, right? And he had a tasbih, which is something, an ornament used by some spiritual magicians to recite some verses, right? So he had those in his hands and in his neck, and he was moving within circular movements and reciting verses that we do not know what. So it looked as if he was performing a ritual. Secondly, Murid, who in my film project is supposed to be a killer. So I made sure that he had a tape on his mouth to show that he was someone who's just a puppet of the magician and would do whatever the magician would ask him to do, right? He is someone who's supposed to act as a bodyguard, who's supposed to act as a person who would actually make sure that the orders of the magicians are paid heed to and are done as the magicians want, as the magician wants them to be done, right? Thirdly, the Tyler, me, myself, within the film project, right? I made sure that I was portrayed as someone who's curious, who's naive, because who else would come to a magician and ask a question like, how long will I live? So I made sure that this character archetype was observed, that how these people who get themselves stuck in these horror situations are generally naive and curious people who do not understand the setbacks or how to handle themselves when the things go sideways, right? So they get themselves stuck in these horror and terrific situations, and therefore face very bad and poor consequences, right? Moreover, as far as the second convention is concerned, the visual styles. So the convention around these horror films is that you have to create a dark and spooky atmosphere, dark and spooky environment, right? So I made sure that the room was dark. I made sure that to give the room that sort of spiritual and magical touch, I put a lot of candles on the table, which gave us the perfect lighting that we needed and made sure that the room was dark, and only these things that we wanted to be visualized and wanted to be seen on the camera were actually seen by the audiences. And moreover, I have made use of Roland Barthes' semiotics theory, right, which focuses on the idea that all cultural phenomena can be understood as signs within a system, where each sign is composed of a signifier, the physical form, and a signified, the meaning, and that these signs carry deeper cultural meanings beyond their literal denotation, right, particularly through the concept of myth, which acts as a second layer of meaning imposed on the signifier. What I'm trying to say is that people have different connotations attached to different things, different elements within a film, right, and these connotations are as a result of their cultural societies and the influence of their culture, right? For instance, when I'm using black color for, let's say, the dark room, or black shawl of fabric around the magician, I'm trying to make use of this theory, right? Because people have their own connotations attached with the dark color black, right? They have the connotations such as dark, evil, mystery, which helps me create the atmosphere that I'm trying to create for my film intro, which helps me create the visual effect, which is similar to this evil, mystery and magical, right? So that my audiences can more so better visualize and more so better relate with the film intro and more so better understand what is happening within this 2 minutes intro, right? Secondly, the hands shaking when Tyler reads the paper, which has 6 minutes written on it, right? That creates a visual effect of worriness and a state of frustration, a state of panic within the audiences as well, right? Because when the magician writes 6 minutes and Tyler is reading it, he starts to shake, he starts to panic. So audiences also feel are also able to feel what Tyler or what me in the video was feeling during that specific moment, right? Thirdly, the burning of paper, right? How Tyler, after writing the question on the paper, burns it, right? Now, this creates the visual effect of spiritual and a ritual performed by the magician. How so? Because when Tyler has burned the paper, the magician, without even looking at the paper, is able to know what the question was. So we made sure that we burned the paper, so there is no way that the magician could read it or see it. So now this was able to create that visual effect that these magicians might or might not have that supernatural powers, because how else were they able to read what Tyler had written on the paper, right? Moreover, props. Now props as a convention was used within my film, which was inspired by the Bhool Bhulaiya, a Bollywood film, right? Now, props used in Bhool Bhulaiya were very similar to ones used in my film intro, which is the tasbih, a bowl which was to contain magical water and fire, candles, and tape on the mouth of the murid, and white cloth on all of the furniture and on the table where the magician was sitting, right? Now becomes the most important convention used within my film project, which is the genre, right? This film opening falls under the supernatural thriller genre, right? With elements of psychological drama, themes of magic, deception, and danger create suspense, while the spiritual magician and dark rituals add a mystical layer. This psychological drama, this psychological tension and moral dilemmas heighten the intrigue, appealing to fans of films like The Sixth Sense or the Indian movie Bhool Bhulaiya. Now, coming towards the second part of the question, which is, how does it represent social groups or issues? Now, a very common and a prevalent issue within the world is of these sham practices committed by the magicians who consider it to be their business to conduct these practices, right? Now, this belief in sham practices, the trust these practices have gained over the period of time, is very common, especially in Eastern societies, right? Where these people are referred to as peers, mullanas, and people have a lot of trust within them that they even consider them as an avenue which will provide them answers to questions that can never be really answered, right? Now, who would ever have an answer to the question, how long will I ever live? No one generally has the answer to that, not even the doctors, right? So people even go to these murids and peers and these magicians to treat their illnesses, sometimes treat those illnesses that have no treatment, even in the modern medicinal facilities. So the first social group highlighted by my film project is the group of these magicians, right? Now, but the second social group highlighted by my film is the naive and curious group of certain people who go to these magicians, right? Who do not have that sort of thinking capacity, that they do not weigh the consequences, that they do not weigh the factors, like, do these magicians have the credibility, have the qualifications to give you the answer that you're looking for, right? Because if you've been raised in a urban setting and you go to a magician who lives in a rural setting, he would not have an idea of the problems that you're facing in your day-to-day life. Therefore, they cannot provide you a satisfactory answer, right? But now, how do these two social groups combine to create a social issue? That is the most important thing highlighted by my film project. That is that when these naive and curious people fall under the hands of these sham and fake magicians, this leads to a practice of performing fake magic and using that as a business and earning profit, right? How so? Because when the magician, after writing 6 minutes on the paper, panics Tyler and then later tells him not to worry and draws out a potion from the water, from the supposedly magical water, and asks Tyler to pay for it if he wants to drink it, and that potion would give him a 20 years of an extra life, right? Now, why is that a problem? Is because anyone who is in Tyler's situation, who is panicking, might fall prey to the hands of these magicians and might end up paying the magician whatever amount that they're asking for in return for the solution, which was in this case 20 years of extra life, right? These are the issues that my film project tries to highlight and illustrate within this film intro.